Well, I'm sitting here in Ohio at the farm right now. Jog some horses and have a couple of peeks at old Piner, and he is right there. Have a couple of peeks at Oso Pine and see you in Tuscany. See if we can get these guys back on track. Not a whole lot to get back on track after yesterday. Some really, really good qualifiers. I had mentioned it in a short, brief video on Facebook, and obviously I want to have a much more extensive look at what took place yesterday. I have all the qualifiers written down here. Which ones? I have a top 10 list. Top 10 list from yesterday. Some horses that upset me. I can give you reasons why. Things we need to work on. And some horses that need some equipment changes. So we'll kick it off. We're going to run through all the horses first and foremost. Beach Boutique, very good yesterday. Now, she was on the left line a little bit. Sylvain said, we can fix that. My concern is why. He couldn't point to any specific lameness. She wasn't like she was on the left line, but didn't seem off left front. Wasn't over on the right shaft, so that wouldn't lead you to believe it was left hind. But she had a splint frozen, cryoed 4 days ago, so it simply could be skin soreness. She needed that wake up, that little workout. She's going to come back for a workout next week. Emerald Miss was good. James pointed out to Mario before the qualifier, before he went out, that she was really ready to go in 59 2 minutes, and that's exactly where she did it right. I don't know if we'll just race this filly once or put her back in the qualify. I haven't made my mind up yet. I'm leaning towards just race her once, but we'll see. Beach Bum BB, still on the fence. We've talked about this time and time again. Is she a good filly, or is she just a nice little filly? I think she's durable, a durable type, but is she a stake horse? I don't know yet. She didn't look like it yesterday. She looked like a nice little filly, probably ready to pace in 57 in a couple of weeks. But Indiana's no joke. That's a big mile track or 7/8 mile track. They rock right along there. There's no shame in her being an effective 2-year-old. I think there's no doubt she's going to be a racehorse. But is she a stake horse? Time will tell. The jury is still out on that one. One that definitely looked like a stake horse yesterday, Bottle Bread. She looked awesome yesterday, that filly, eh? 27, I think, on the end of it. Mile and 58, looked real good. Left good, just did everything good. Looked like she's ready. All of our half-mile track horses, so all our horses that are going to race predominantly on the halves of New York, looked great yesterday. We'll get into a couple more later on, a little more in-depth. Brush Cut looked good. I'll tell you about what took place there and what we found afterwards. No issues whatsoever. Brush Cut was a little flat, admittedly, yesterday. At least looked flat. You know, everybody came rushing to his defense with the math of what he did yesterday afterwards. We don't race math, we race horses. So I'll tell you what I saw, what took place, and why I'm not concerned at all. Sebastian Hughes certainly had a breakout day, didn't he? You know, Louis-Philippe Waugh did a great job on this horse. This colt, I never thought he'd be scared of the shadows. We took him over 2 weeks ago, and he jumped over the shadows. We had to put that shadow roll on him, pull his head up. He still knew they were there, and he was very tentative of them. And rather than just be cautious and worried about it, Louis-Philippe Waugh went the extra mile. Not only did he come and warm the horse up at 9:30, he actually jogged him over the shadows, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, for what seemed forever yesterday. Like, it had to be 25, 30 minutes. And then when he went out of there with the gate, went out of there with him, like, he tugged him out of there. Colt's a little aggressive, obviously, but he said he'd come back to me very nicely once I left with him, which is great. And when he powered out of there, he didn't go around the shadows. He went right over them, and Brush Cut trotted right over them. 1, 2, 3, 4, and looked very, very good doing it. What's up, Buckaroo? My co-pilot Ollie and I are here in the Buckeye State for the weekend. There was no hotels last night. We just stayed at Super 8. I hate the Super 8. It feels like a dog.
Garbage.
Don't. Yes, what he said. So Ollie's not happy. There's no pool. There's no jacuzzi. And the beds are a little lumpy. Ollie, not very pumped about the Super 8. Anyway, where was I? So Sebastian Yu qualified very, very good, but smart, that colt. And I said to Louis, I said, I really appreciate you doing that. That's a nice colt. and he's not stupid. He's smart. He understood. He was obviously tentative, but blasted right over them. His horse a workhorse. I tell you, he's these Sebastian K's. They have a good with they. Obviously, I was a little deflated over Johan. We'll talk about him in a minute. But knockdown drag out, and Sebastian Yu kind of stole the show, didn't they, yesterday? In Sebastian Yu's qualifier.
I got you that time.
Ollie. He is pumped to be away from home, though, Ollie. He loves. I told him the first week of July, I said, I'm coming. We're going to Ohio and Pennsylvania. Might even head down to Indiana. We'll talk about why in a minute. And Ollie said, well, Mom's got the cottage with her mom. Her mom booked the cottage, probably the busiest week of the entire year. So Amy's obligated to go to, her family get together at the cabin. Ollie put a kibosh to it. He said, no, I'm going with Dad to Ohio. We're going. You guys go to your cabin for 10 days. Amy's like, it's 3 days. He says, no, I'm going to Ohio and Pennsylvania with Dad. So the boys are going to be loose the first week of July also. So in that qualifier, Sebastian Yu won by what seemed like an infinity. He won by a football field. Willpower fashion got up to beat Crazy Mission at the wire. A little upset. He looked a little flat, but this colt's a little flabby, and everybody keeps treating him like a little baby, and he's not. This is a big colt that needs some structure right now, and he's going to have a tough couple of weeks of heavy lifting in front of him. Willpower fashion, but did his work well. 2-3 last half, 59 a minute, last quarter 29 seconds. He did well, and it's not that I expect him to be as good as Sebastian Yu, but I expect more, and more will come. Crazy Mission, there's a colt that just kind of flew under the radar, did okay. He's going to be like a nice little Buckeye horse, but Sylvain said never offered to run, trotted well. Who knows? But very happy with what I saw for him. For a colt that we almost sold at the sale and would have got nothing for, I think we've done pretty good. Crazy Bishop was good. Horse that continues to, for lack of a better word, piss me off a little bit. Rose Run Valiant. Watch the qualifier. He's a goof. And I don't know whether he's stubborn or stupid or he's a combination of both. But won't go up to the gate, goofing around the whole way. Here's a colt. Now he's qualified. He's going to school next week. And he's going to school hard. We'll put a screen on him, maybe a shadow roll. I need him to go up to the gate. I need him to do his work and stop playing around. It's not playtime, and he's very lucky that I had my cast on the last 3 weeks, because he wouldn't have been getting away with that stuff. So Rose Run Valiant did okay yesterday. That isn't even scratching the surface. This is a fast colt. Enough's enough. Again, July 3rd or 4th or whatever is the first Sire Stakes in Ohio. He'll be plenty tight for the Sire Stakes in Ohio. A number of you asked, what happened with Bend Over? So let me just set the table for you for Bend Over. Bend Over spent all winter on the run. Horrible little animal, wasn't he? Tell the truth, he was a terrible little horse. And run and run and run. We finally got him trotting. Now you can't knock him off his feet for the most part. The poor little bugger popped not one, not two, not three quarter cracks over the last 2 weeks. And one of our clients just said, why did we qualify him? Well, they weren't bleeding. We all got to face adversity in life, don't we? I'm trying to work with a broken arm and a broken elbow. Surely to Jesus, Bend Over can qualify with a few quarter cracks. But he's tough. And I was so proud of that little horse yesterday. And Dubé come off the track said, hobbles are way too tight. I knew they were. But I just wanted him to qualify. And we'll probably school. If 2-5-1 was enough to get him qualified for Ohio, which I assume it is, we'll just school him. I think he's sitting on a 2-minute mile, this horse. Really happy with what I saw yesterday from Bend Over. And I love horses that don't look for excuses. 3 quarter cracks, never put a step in. That's an A+ for me. Bend Over was very good. Now we get to a horse that is absolutely 100% James's fault that he run. Jailhouse Master. There's 2 drivers going to get put on blast today. James obviously usually does great and had a great day yesterday, did great with most of our horses. He was the one that said to me, Jailhouse Master was my fault. In fact, James likes him so much that he wanted to buy shares of him after the qualifier, and I told him there was some for sale. He said he's a very, very good horse. All I did, I shifted the lines, and I goosed him, and I spooked him, and he made a break. So I told them, I said, guys, jog them, go out and thaw them out good. I want their head in the game when they go to the gate. Now, if Disco and Steve Labonte can keep, and no disrespect to either of them, but if they can keep Jailhouse Master trotting the last 7 weeks, James McDonald, surely to Jesus, can also, and did not. So, Jailhouse Master, not the end of the world, made a break. James said there will not be a repeat performance of that break next week. So that's what he said. Now, I would say if we didn't get the chance to watch the later qualifiers, obviously Arctic Force was tremendous. Now, I'm gonna tell you the difference in a minute. I'm not gonna elaborate. I'm just gonna tell you he was good. Qualified in 55-4 and looked better than I thought he would be. Really, really impressed me yesterday. I got a pretty good idea what these colts are ready to do, what fillies are ready to do, and what they aren't. That horse impressed me yesterday. Very, very impressive mile. And I'm going to explain something to you in just a minute about these when we talk about the top 10. I'll elaborate. Arctic Force, very, very good yesterday. Excellent Nation. Here's the scoop with Excellent Nation. He's very fast, but he's very shallow. And what I mean by that is he's a trip horse. Lots of horses throughout the times that made a lot of money were the same way. They're not first over horses, probably not as good on the front end, maybe leave, sit, follow, sprint down the lane. I thought Lawmaker was that type of horse at 2. I thought that he was exact same, fast and shallow. He ended up being a very, very good horse. So horses can change. But Excellent Nation got his bell rung yesterday when they started to sprint in front of him. He didn't like it, and he kind of backed up a little bit. That's okay. When we get a little vet work done on him before I know that he's got his knees pinch him a little bit. One lower hock, I think, bothers him a little bit. This is all aches and pains stuff, but not a big deal. Very, very manageable. And I think once we get him down here to Ohio, a little smaller setting, I think he'll do pretty good for us, regardless of whether he's a Sire Stakes horse or a Buckeye. I think he's a Sire Stakes horse, but that depends on how good the rest of the horses are down here, doesn't it? I have no idea how they are. So I think another couple of big miles, and Excellent Nation's probably ready to pace 55, 56 over Northfield, I think. And he's small, so maybe just the same over Scioto. What that makes him, I don't know. But yesterday, what you saw was a little horse, a little shallow horse, that got his neck stretched and he didn't like it. But as we get a lot more work into him and a lot more miles, fast miles into him, it'll be much, much tougher to stretch him than it was yesterday. Spend that money. If it wasn't for Arctic Force and Knockdown Dragout, everybody would have been talking about her, wouldn't they? And everybody should. 27-4. No 2-year-olds went 27-4 on the end of a Trotters yesterday, I don't think, anyway. None that I saw. And she was, not only did she come 27-4, just check out the video. A bow in her neck going under the wire. James said, I never spoke to her, I never touched her, certainly never pulled the earplugs. He said she was lights out. Spend that money will likely be a very, very big force in Ohio this year. Very good filly. Pretty hard not to love what we've seen in her. For the people out there chirping and running their mouths about Uncle Peter, not too shabby. So, spend that now. I guess you could say, well, she hasn't made any money yet. Okay. Look me up in a month. Tell me how she's doing. Spend that money is a very, very nice filly. A filly that obviously wasn't ready to come 27-4. 2-2, 29 seconds on the end of it, half and 59. Havana Unana, Jim was talking about her after. Thing I love about this filly, she's almost bomb-proof right now for a filly that made breaks in the winter training. Very, very nice filly. Only one hole. We have done her knee with polyglycan, her right knee. It doesn't appear to bother her, but what I mean by that is the fluid in the joint seems good, but it's still a little bumpy on it sometimes. Now, she had goofed around and fallen down in the wintertime, jogging or training or whatnot. So there's a little scar on that knee. Might just be a little aches and pains or whatnot. I have no idea. But we'll get her checked before we send her to Indiana. But Havana Unana, man, oh man, did she look good yesterday. And Jody said the same thing. He said, man, she's just not ready for 27-4. Not many are. I don't know if anybody is aware of this or not, but not many of the 2-year-olds are ready for 27-4. The Trotters this time of year. Spend that money is a special kind of filly, I think. And Havana Unana is just a really good one, I think. And there's quite the difference. Ollie, when they're coming 27-4, they're going to trot away from horses like Havana. But that doesn't mean anything. Havana Unana is just a workhorse, and she's going to be a good filly for us all year long, I believe. Ollie. Next is Overdue Mission. Here's another filly. She had to pop the quarter crack yesterday after the qualifier. It was just pouring blood. left hind. This is a filly that really didn't appear to need any excuses all winter to make a break. Blows a big quarter crack and bleeding out of her foot. Stays right at it. Danny said, she was doing all the work she could. I left her alone. Again, when those horses start trotting as fast as they can down the lane, Danny said flat mile first. 100% correct, Mr. O'Brien. Flat mile first. If they'd have made a break halfway down the lane, I would have been upset. And Danny knows what he's doing. Did a great job with overdue mission. Horse that was a little flat, admittedly, was Miss Mischief Maker. Mario said she was twisted over on a line. Never have her looked at yet by the vet. A little bit of vet work done on this filly. We'll bring her back next week. Keep in mind, this is a filly that was one of our best all winter, and it's still in there. I think she got hurt on that right hind. Then remember, she ripped that leg and cut it open. That's time missed. That's heavy lifting missed. That's big time workouts for a month missed. And honey, either come or go. What are you doing? Yes, he's going. Miss Mischief Maker was very, very good. Not very good. She was good yesterday. 2-3 last quarter and 29 last half 59. She was okay. You watch the race. She was present. This filly's missing a little bit of vet work. When I take her and get her looked at, everybody says, well, you shouldn't have to be doing vet work on 2-year-olds. Okay, it's not 1988. Yes, sometimes you do after the qualifiers. Before they race, you can get a couple. I can qualify Miss Mischief Maker, no problem again with a vet work. Won't be a problem at all. But pretending it's not there and waiting until the last minute to take care of it. And you know what? A good example would be me. And I didn't realize this. The nurses and the doctors told me I hate taking the pain medication. I even forgot it. I didn't bring it down here with me. I forgot to take it. I've been okay, but they said treating pain that is present is much harder to do than preventing pain. So what they mean is, do we want Miss Mischief Maker to become uncomfortable and then do the vet work on her? Or are we going to pretend that that isn't there? Because her getting on a line and getting out of gear in a big track on the turns is a symptom. It's a problem. So I can almost guarantee you what it is. I'm going to say right hock, right knee, maybe even left foot on that filly, which is pretty, it's not a big issue, but on the track it is. The fact that she didn't make a break yesterday speaks a lot to her talent, speaks a lot to her mental fortitude. She's a strong filly that enjoys her work, and she's a workhorse, never looks away from work. I love that about her, and I love that about all the horses. Miss Mischief Maker will probably go to the vet on Monday. She likely won't qualify on Thursday. If they go with them on Friday, then we'll likely go Friday. If they go with them on Thursday, I likely won't put her through that. We'll go back the next week with her. Maybe school her. I don't know. Can't school her. We'll probably just train her at the track maybe on Friday if they don't go with the trotters. Anyway, that's here nor there. We'll get that taken care of. A horse that certainly doesn't need any vet work right now, I'll play it alone. I said yesterday, how many times have you ever seen a pacing colt come a half in 54-4 on the front end and get beat first time behind the gate, first official charted mile in a baby race? Not that I can remember, anyway. 54-4 was his last half. Half in 1 3, a mile 56-2. This colt looked impressive. The only reason I'm not doing backflips is I'm pretty sure I know what's waiting for us in Pennsylvania. He's going to have to be that good. He looked as good as he had to look yesterday, and he's going to have to look a lot better in the near future. Now, if he can throw the half in 58 and comes a half in 54-4, we'll have no problems. But obviously a very fast colt. 26-4 in the end of it, 54-4 last half. Very talented colt. Very happy with what I saw. Jody did a great job. Colt's really coming along. Gonna have a little fun with this guy, I think. I'll play it alone. I know I've talked about selling him in the past simply because of, again, if we get paid pretty good money for this colt, who's just eligible in Pennsylvania, we should probably look at it. Or we can roll the dice and race him against the Captain Treacherouses and Sweet Lou's and the other Some Beach Somewheres in Pennsylvania. We can do that if you want. I'm just looking at the path, and I say this all the time, the path of least resistance for us and what makes the most sense. Am I actively looking to sell him? No, I haven't shopped him around. But if somebody calls looking for a nice Pennsylvania colt to race, we got one. So that's all play it alone. Harness AM was very good yesterday. One thing I'd said to our clients about Harness AM, she's always done it right, but she's never shown that eye of the tiger, has she? She's never shown that where she just rips them apart in training. She did yesterday. She's right on time. Danny did a great job with this filly, bringing her along. She looks real good and looked great yesterday. And you'd say, well, Nancy Allison was a sitting duck. Yeah, she was. So one thing, James did that right yesterday. Nancy Allison, we all know who was the odds-on favorite to make a break. If we had a gun to our head and had to say, okay, of the 34, who's going to run? I think we all know Nancy Allison would have been our top pick. Did some work on her, responded well. She's a very stubborn filly. And James said, if I had the one thing about Nancy Allison, it's weird. If you get somebody in front of her, she'll drop the bit. She won't run over them and climb over them and be hot. She'll drop the bit and follow proper. It's just nobody was there that could leave with her fast enough. That's the other thing, is you got to let her trot out of there. If you double her up too much, she gets pacey, she can run. And James let her trot out of there and did the right thing. Unfortunately, the math just wasn't there for her. She'd only been in 210 or 212. Lots of miles, lots of speed, but not any fast miles in her. So she just wasn't ready for a 2-minute mile, but I was very happy with the way she finished up her mile. Sure, she was tired when she came in. That's okay. It's not the end of the world. She'll be just fine. Who else we got? Susie K. What about our girl Susie? 2, 2, and 3 last half in a minute. I think 29 and a piece on the end of it. You can't ask her for any more. She looked great. Horse that we're going to work on this week, she made it onto a different list, Path of Totality. I've just about had it with the breaks. Now, I blame yesterday on Mario, and I told him I was going to blame him for it. I told him to get her attention and make her work yesterday. Instead, he floated out of there, got away 6th or 7th, and she rolled off not paying attention. That's her motive. That's her MO. That's what she does. She gets lollygagging, she gets looking around, she just rolls off. That's coming to an end. She's wearing trotting hobbles this week, at least to train to see how she likes them. There's going to be no more of this foolishness running and bouncing around. Spirited Deal, that's another point of contention here in a moment we're going to talk about. I'm just going to leave this portion of the list by saying she made a break. And that's not new to us. It shouldn't have happened, and I'm going to explain it. It wasn't Jody's fault. I'm going to explain it. Libero Hanover qualified well, finished second. Rooney Blue Chip also. This qualifier was full of horses that did okay. Sometimes things happen. Dan Dubé just went around. I told him he's ready to go in 2-3 in a bit. That's exactly where he went. Very happy with him. Hold on. Very happy with him. Oliver, wait a second, please. 2 horses that really got under my skin yesterday. Johan, there's no need for that. That wasn't Mario's fault. That was him being ignorant. We got to get make a few little changes this week. This cast can't come off quick enough for old Johan. This will be addressed and fixed this week. Yours if you want it. He just came unglued yesterday. You know, he was in the second last qualifier. We had to go out and warm them up at the farm, then bring them over to Mohawk, then warm them up at Mohawk. A number of things could have happened. They said he was hot at the farm. He could have washed himself out. He could have tied up a little bit. Yesterday was a bad day for Yours if you want it. He'll come back next week. I'm sure he'll be just fine. Yours if you want it. 13th qualifier, knockdown drag out. Well, it's not really that surprising. Pretty hard to believe that we expected 1:58 out of a 2-year-old trotting filly, her first qualifier, but somebody said, wow. And I said, I just expected she'd do something like that. I saw him leave out of there, and I knew he was going to big quarter. I told him before, I said, don't worry about the big quarter with her. You know what? She's going to learn to leave, float, sit. Just leave her alone. Don't fight with her. He went out of there, and he let her trot out of there. 28-2 is lots, probably a little more than I was happy with, but at the same time, you don't always get what you want, and Mario did a great job with her yesterday, and she did exactly what she knew she was supposed to. Backed her up, middle half and 1-1, trotted home 29 under wraps. Filly's great filly, isn't she? Just a nice filly. Take a look at the backfield. Compass Rose DC was very, very good. Rose Run Versatile. Amy, my wife, was lobbying me to scratch her. She said she's in too tough. She's not ready to go in 2 minutes. Scratch her. We didn't. She went a mile in 2 minutes, 2-1, something like that. Half in 59-29, very good. Just for me and you, finding her way back onto that beaten path she was on before, where she was good. Better yesterday, mathematically acceptable. Better yesterday, still got a way to go. Probably the most disappointing horse of the day that didn't run was Really Blue Chip. Not a big deal. Really Blue Chip was really sore on her feet last week. We added some pads to her. I'm not sure if she can get a hold of the track real good with those pads on. We're going to bring her back and go this week. I might take those pads off right before she goes behind the gate and make sure she gets qualified. Didn't appear to be anything wrong with her, but I know she was ready to go a mile and 59. I really thought, well, I knew as soon as the knockdown dragout made to the front, I knew she was going to win, but I assumed really Blue Chip would be a closing second. She just didn't show up yesterday the best. This happens, especially a trotting filly, first time behind the gate in a qualifier. Yeah, she schooled, but keep in mind, remember she missed last week because her feet were really sore. We couldn't come back with her, so it was 2 weeks. She missed a big training mile. Not a big deal. We'll get her back in the swing thing. She's going to be coming back next week. Globe trotting, if you watch the qualifier, you know what happened. I don't have to explain it. She just came unglued out of the gate. She needs a set of earplugs on, needs something back in her mouth, maybe a snake cord to get her under control. Just feeling good. Tell you what she is. She's a nasty bugger in the paddock. She almost kicked somebody, and she's been kicking and squealing all day. She's bad in the paddock. Got to get that under control. She's going to hurt someone or hurt herself. But she just came unglued yesterday. Big, strong filly, just looking to do more than she should have. So that is the qualifying report from yesterday. I'm going to come back in a minute. I'm going to tell you about 10 horses that impressed the hell out of me. Top 10 list. I'm going to follow that up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 that did not go good. But I'm going to give you explanations why. Some of them I already kind of touched on a little bit. I'm going to run through exactly what went on, and I'll be right back in a minute.
Daddy?